Reckoning has come and Engraver is here. Hello guys and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode we're talking about Fiendsmith, and more specifically Fiendsmith Engraver as a whole. I'm going to show you this deck list in particular, and I have a few other deck lists down the line, all to do with Fiendsmith. Now, it's not all going to be Fiendsmith for the next couple of days, but I do want to specifically talk about this deck list, which I do believe to be the best variant for Fiendsmith in particular. Now, if you don't know what Fiendsmith does, that's surprising. You can actually check out my last video on it, and there you go. That's a good explanation. However, notably in Master Duel, we have received quite a different change from what we have gotten in the TCG and in the OCG, or more specifically, what we expected given what is currently available in the TCG and OCG. And that is, we have Engraver with Lacrimosa, the fusion monster, but no Lacrima, the main deck monster. Now, what does that change? Quite a lot. Notably, what it changes is that Fiendsmith is no longer a powerful strategy by itself and needs additional cards to really function fully. Because one Fiendsmith monster does not make pretty much anything. However, you do need the additional cards and the additional monsters to kind of get going or to do the Fiendsmith stuff. You can still make Desiree pretty easily alongside any other monsters, basically, and it's pretty useful, all things considered. So it's not bad, but it is weaker, and it is more as an engine than what is currently being played in the TCG. So keep that in mind. Let's quickly talk about this deck list in particular. We are playing SnowiKs, Azamina, Fiendsmith, or just like good stuff. That's more or less what it is. So we're going to quickly run through the cards. There are a bunch of new cards in here. We're going to start with the cards that we already know. We're starting with the SnowiKs cards. 1 Oak, 1 Ash, 1 Poplar. Pretty standard. We're also running a Flomberg and a Diabell's, or a Diabellstar SnowiKs, as well as the Field Spell and OSS. We're also, of course, running triple Diabellstar, the Black Witch, and the one Wanted as well. Now, Diabellstar pulls double duty, because not only does she search out the SnowiKs cards, she also searches out, well, not searches, but she also gets the Azamina cards, which are the 3 Deception of the Sinful Spoils, which tributes a monster in hand in order to add an Azamina card from your deck to your hand. And if a monster is sent to your opponent's graveyard and you control an Azamina monster, you can make your opponent lose 1,500 and you gain 1,500. That never comes up, and You'll see why in a second. But during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent from the spell and trap card zone, this turn, while face up, you can set it. So it just resets itself, which is fantastic. But what does it grab? Hallowed Azamina, which is just a fusion spell that kind of cheats the fusion summoning mechanic. What it does is you reveal an Azamina fusion monster, and then you send the Deception in order to either summon Sylvia or Moo. We're just going to call her Moo, because let's be honest, I have no idea how to say that third word. So that's pretty much what it is. These two are very good just in general because they do two very different things. Silva allows you to put an Omni Negate onto the field immediately, basically. So you go Diabellstar, you grab up the Deception, Deception tributes the Diabellstar, you grab Hallowed, Hallowed tributes the Deception, and then you summon out Silva, but without normal summoning, without doing anything else, and in 2 summons. And what Silva does, literally all it does is it's a negate. The other effects just don't matter. It's a negate. It's a negate. That's all it is. Omni. Incredible. Moo, on the other hand, does something rather different, which is, it's basically an extender. A fusion summoned, which, this counts as a fusion summon. It kind of cheats the mechanic, but like it still counts as a fusion summon. Yada yada. You get it. If this card is fusion summoned, you can add an Azamina or a Sinful Spoil card from your deck to your hand. Now, what does that mean? Hey, you can grab up OSS. So you can still do the Diabellstar, grab up Deception, Deception, grab Hollowed, Hollowed for the Moo, and then Moo can then add OSS. Now, why is this important? Well, because Moo is a level 6. Now, what does level 6 get us? Fiendsmith Synergy, yes, whoa! Which means we can go into Beatrice. Beatrice should be banned, but alas, it's not. Now, we could do some very heinous things with Beatrice. I have elected not to do that for your sanity and mostly mine. Yes, we could go roll back, dump, and then dump the Mayakashi trap, and then copy the Mayakashi trap and prevent my opponent from basically doing anything. But that's boring, and I don't like being boring. So, we're not doing that. Instead, we're playing Fiendsmith in Paradise, which is not a very good card without Lacrima, the main deck monster. And so why are we playing it? Well, because it came up quite often in my small amount of testing that I did. So for the most part, I just figured, let's throw it in here. And it's not bad, all things considered, but we are playing 43. So there you go. If you don't know what Paradise does, if a monster is special summoned, you can banish it in order to send a Fiendsmith monster from deck or extra deck to the graveyard. This sends Desiree. Desiree, on being sent to the graveyard, shuffles a light fiend from the grave into the deck or extra deck in order to target a card on the field and send it to the graveyard. Very useful, just solid overall. Make sense? Makes sense. And that's pretty much what Beatrice is, not specifically in here for, but that is one of the reasons to make Beatrice. And why, like, being able to go into Mu, into Beatrice is pretty good. And that's pretty much it for the Azamina stuff. As far as the Fiendsmith stuff goes, it's also pretty simple. We're playing 3 Tract, which gets us either Engraver or Lurie. Lurie, when discarded off of the Tract's effect, it specifically has to be discarded for effect. Lurie's weird. But basically, you Tract, search out Lurie, Lurie then discards, and then immediately special summons itself. It is a mandatory effect. You cannot choose to not activate it. You have to activate it. So do keep that in mind as well. And then that gets us full combo with the Requiem. You just go into Requiem. Requiem special summons out at the Engraver, and then the Engraver with any other monster goes into something like Sequins, which can then be fusion summoned into Lacrima, and then Lacrima will bring back a guy, and it's a level 6 Fiend, which then allows you to go into something like Beatrice or DD Wave King Caesar. Make sense? Makes sense. Basically, Lacrima gets you into Engraver. Engraver with any other guy gets Sequins. Sequins is a fusion summon spell that also equips itself to something like Desiree. So you can either go into Desiree or Lacrima by shuffling the materials from grave, or some other locations probably. Tract is also a fusion spell, so you could potentially go Lacrima, special summon out at the Engraver, and then use Tract's effect in order to fusion summon into the Desiree, fusing off the Lacrima, the Engraver, and the Sequins that are currently on your field in order to go into Desiree, and then Sequins can equip itself to the Desiree, giving it its negate. Make sense? Makes sense. Desiree does have a Hot Red Dragon Archfiend effect, where you just target cards equal to the number of equipped link monsters and their link rating. So basically, with the sequence, it's 2 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend effects, which is a targeted negate. Make sense? Makes sense. Hopefully. That's pretty much it. It's just a bunch of engines and then a whole bunch of non-engine. We're playing Drolls, we're playing Maxi, Ash, Fua, we're playing some Bestials, we're playing Nib, we're playing Called By, Crossout, and Imperm. And that's pretty much it. The rest of the extra deck is pretty simple. It, you know, just standard Snake Eye stuff. And Moon to get into the Fiendsmith part of our engine with just any 2 monsters. That's pretty much it. Let's hop into the replays and show you how this deck performs. Alrighty, so here we are going first, and hey, is that an Engraver in our hand? That's full combo. Let me show you why this is full combo. We're going to start off here. Of course, my opponent has the Maxi, because of course they would. Why would they not? They're going to grab up, or sorry, we're going to grab up the Tract here, and Tract is actually pretty good. Reason being, we have the Paradise in our grave already, or in our hand already. So we're actually going to grab the Lurie here and pitch Paradise. I know, strange, why are we not pitching the Lurie? Well, Paradise needs to be engraved, and we can just normal summon the Lurie. Pretty cool, huh? So we're going to go into Requiem. Requiem is then going to grab up the second Engraver. Engraver 2, Electric Boogaloo, is going to activate its effect, and we're going to go into the Engraver, and then we go into Sequins. Okay, this is where things get very interesting. Sequins into Lacrima. Lacrima is then going to bring back one of the Engravers, so we shuffle back the non-Engraver and an Engraver in order to go into Lacrima. Lacrima can then bring back the other Engraver, and now we can go into Beatrice. Now Beatrice is going to send, that's right, Snake Eye Ash. And then we can make Promethean Princess. Goddamn, that's crazy. So yeah, out comes the Snake Eye Ash. Snake Eye Ash is going to grab Poplar, and now we just do full Snake Eye combo. Hooray! Hooray! That was off of 1 Engraver. Hell yeah. So out comes the Ambler Whale. We're going to then go for the Snake Eye Ash into the Oak. Into the Oak, activate its effect of bringing back the Snake Eye Ash. And then we're going to go for the Snake Eye Diabellstar in order to go into Masquerena. I messed up here. What I should have done, learn from my mistakes. What I should have done is I should have gone for the Oak effect there, and then it's special summoning out, or before going into the IP Masquerena, special summoning out the, the Flomberg. Flomberg put Oak into the back row, and then link off into the IP Mask Arena, using the Flomberg effect to bring back the 2 monsters, the Poplar and the Ash, and then from there I could have also potentially done a bit more. So, a bit of a goof on my part, but it's not that big of a deal. It's pretty bad. Because I could have made Apo here, and now I can't without them kind of doing something. My opponent's going to reveal that they're playing bad cards, which is the ultimate nightmare. So there's that. But we're going to special summon the Oak. They're going to allow that to resolve, so we're going to go for the Ash here, and then I'm going to imperm the Phantom of Duel. Here comes the opening, and they're going to keep doing stuff. I'm like, okay, now seems like a good time to go for the Apo. I probably should have done it a little sooner, but it's fine. They're going to call by. I'm just going to let that resolve. I could have impermed. Here's the thing. I could have impermed there, negating the called by. The problem is, I don't actually care about the cards coming back. I more so care about Apo existing. And the reason I don't imperm there is because I actually need the imperm so that I can keep the Apo at a high enough attack point value to not die to this guy in particular. Sorry, not this one. Not this one. Forget this one. They also clicked the wrong button. I don't know why they don't click Apo here, but they just don't. The card I'm thinking of is... Well, you'll see it in a second. But, yeah. Out comes the Chaos Angel, which is strange. They don't target the Apo, which doesn't force out my Imperm. Interesting. So, yeah, I could just go for Promethean Princess popping these guys. I was originally going to go, hey, I'll go Fiendsmith in Paradise and send it to the graveyard. But no, okay. Cool. So, yeah, that Chaos Angel certainly did stuff. They're going to go for the Spirit of Yubel, and I have to negate that. I was pretty certain that that was going to happen. But this allows me to keep this guy in particular away from just walking over the Apo, which I really did not want them to do. So that's why I did that the way that I did. Kind of strange, but like I was cognizant of Yama being an issue. And yeah, they special summon out the Phantom of Yubel, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to send away the Yama here with the Engravers, or with the Desiree's effect. So that's what happened there. They allowed that to happen as well, which is, I mean, I guess it makes sense because like Apo's just going to negate it. But okay, we draw Diabellstar, which does matter here because guess what? I don't have another fire in the extra deck that I can go into. So this Promethean is just kind of like stranded on field, but we can just tribute over it, and it's fine. So yeah, I didn't really have anything else to go into there, but now we're opened up, and we're going to grab Deception off of the Diabellstar. We're going to Tribute in order to grab up the Hallowed, and then we're going to shuffle back the Desiree in order to special summon out the Engraver, and then link off into Requiem. So Requiem effect is going to activate here as well, special summoning out another Engraver, and at this point, my opponent just concedes, realizing, or like seeing the writing on the wall, and yeah, that game is pretty over. I can actually use the Engraver's second effect, if you don't know, has another effect, has a third effect, I should say. Where it can send an equip card and a monster, a face-up monster, on the field to the grave. So, yeah, you just equip Requiem and then send the Requiem to send the Phantom, which forces the Phantom, and then you can just negate it. And then they're dead. So, good game. Alright, so here we are, once again, going first, because of course we are. We drew an incredible hand. That's it. We're going to go and normal summon the Snake Eye Ash, to which it will be met with Valor. I don't play Valor, so I can't cross out that. We're going to go for the Link Karibo here, and then into the Diabellstar. I actually pitch the Ash. It may seem strange, but because I was like, oh, if they have something like Infip, or Valor, or like a second Valor, or something along those lines, right, this still allows me to kind of play the game. So, yeah, that's what we do here. We're going to go for the Crossout Designator on the Imperm and grab up Deception here. We're going to activate the Deception, we're going to activate its effect, tributing off that guy in order to go into the Hallowed. This loses to a bunch of things, but pretty much everything I did there loses to a bunch of things, so it's kind of hard to necessarily be like, I'm going to play around all of these things, but it's like, just keep in mind, my opponent's already dropped 2 hand traps on me. If they have a third, very rarely can you play through that regardless of the hand that you draw. So I could have tributed, instead of tributing the Link Karibo, I could have tributed the Maxi, and then guaranteed that I have a board of some capacity through 3 hand traps. But I'm fairly certain, I'm hoping basically at this point, my opponent doesn't have a third. Because if they do have a third, and they have a way to combo, I'm just dead anyway, regardless of what board I could potentially make there. So yeah, we're just gonna hope that they don't. So we're gonna go for the Deception here and to go into Moo. Moo is then going to search up, of course, the OSS, and now we can go and do the full Fiendsmith combo. So out comes the Moon. I'm also going to shuffle back in order to add back the Hallowed, which is actually pretty good. You'll see why in a second. So we're gonna go for the Hallowed here, and guess what? I haven't summoned this guy, which has the effect that, oh, it's an Omni, right. So we're going to tribute off the OSS here in order to summon out the Omni, and now we can go for the Requiem here into the Fiendsmith Engraver, and then we can grab up Poplar off of it, the OSS Graveyard effect, because for some reason this has another fucking effect. So yeah, out comes Poplar. Poplar is going to special summon. We're going to grab up the the Temple. We're going to activate the Temple in order to grab up the Snake Eyes Diabell Star, go for the Snake Eye Diabell Star, and then link up those two off into Sequence, into the effect of Sequence, which, yeah, they did have a third hand trap. It just happened to be Ghost Spell, which wasn't as useful there as it could have been. But luckily, oh look, Silva, Omni, hooray! So yeah, that would have been really, really useful earlier, but alas, out comes the Lacrima. We're going to go for the Lacrima here in order to go into this guy, and then out comes the Beatrice. What are we sending with Beatrice? That's right, Paradise. Because now we can just go into the Promethean Princess. We're going to activate the effect of the Promethean Princess, bring back another guy, and then go into the Amplo Whale, and now we can go for the Poplar effect, putting back the Snake Eye Diabell Star, and then we can go for the Ash effect into the Oak. Oak can bring back the Ash, and then we can go for the Oak effect in order to go into the Flomberg. Flomberg, put the Oak back into the back row, and then we can go for Engraver, which we haven't used yet this turn, and then link those two off into IP Masquerena, activate the effect of the Flomberg, putting 2 additional guys onto the field, and then go into Apo, and last but not least, the boy, Link Karibo, and all with a Maxi in hand. And through 3 hand traps, by the way. Pretty insane. We also get to set Deception as well, which is kind of crazy. My opponent just sets a card. Ominous. We draw Fua. Comedy. And then we are going to just go for the Deception here, and then shuffle back the monster to go for the Hallowed Azamina. Yeah, I forgot to mention, yeah, I can just shuffle back one of the fusion monsters in order to add itself back to the hand, and the fusion effect is not once per turn. I kind of showcased that, and am now talking about it. Yeah, this card's crazy, by the way. Kind of wild. My opponent just concedes there because they know that they are dead. So, good game. Also, one of your monsters does do piercing. I believe it's Silva. Silva just, like, does piercing. Okay, so by the way, that last game, my opponent was on Tenpai. Don't know if you knew that, but yeah, they were on Tenpai. This is a great hand. It may not look like a great hand, but it's a great hand. My opponent is going to go for Thunder Dragon. That's worrying. Yup, that's what I was worried about. So, this hand now technically doesn't do anything, unless we can get 2 monsters onto the field. Oh, well, Called By's not terrible. We're going to normal summon the Ash here in order to go into Closed Moon of the Closed Heaven. Nah, I didn't invite. We're going to go for the Requiem here. Requiem effect is going to activate, and no Called By. Interesting. We're going to go for the Engraver, and yeah, Engraver has this crazy effect where you can send an equip card and then a face-up monster on the field to the grave. So now we can play the game! Hooray! So Tract is going to grab up Lurie, we're going to pitch the Lurie here, and then we're going to special summon out the Lurie, and now we can do whatever the heck our hearts decide. Son of... Super Poly? Who plays Super This guy, apparently. But that's okay, because we haven't yet used the Engraver, so we're going to activate the Engraver effect, and then we're going to go for the Deception. Deception is going to tribute Ash? Why did we tribute the Ash there if we summoned the Engraver? Well, because we do want 2 monsters on the field to go for the Sequence. Now, if you saw the previous play that we did with the Beatrice, yeah, that's the line that we're going for here. So we're going to go for the Moo here. We're going to summon out Azamina Moo, and then activate its effect in order to grab up the Sinful Spoils, and then from there we can link off into the Sequence, into Sequence's effect, shuffling back in order to go into Lacrima. Lacrima is then, or Lacrimosa is then going to special summon back the Engraver, and then go into the Beatrice, and go from there. And Beatrice can actually send Paradise there instead of doing the Snake Eye stuff, and then we can just, like, send Sequence to the grave, or whatever we wanted. The world is our oyster at that point. And, yeah, good game. I love this deck. Alright, we're back with the deck, and honestly, this deck is extremely fun to play. First of all, let's just talk about how insanely good the Fiendsmith cards are. They are just so much. They represent so many points of interaction, and really strange points of interaction that not a lot of decks are, like, prepared for. They're incredibly good in a grind game. If you have an Engraver engrave, you basically still get to do whatever the heck you want, which is really, really powerful, especially with at least 2 Fiendsmith engravers. It's very nice, and it's very solid, all things considered. That being said, overall, this deck is incredibly fun. First of all, it's non-linear. Yes, there are combos that you can do, like the Snake Eye stuff, like the Fiendsmith stuff, like the Azamina stuff. They're all pretty simple when you put them together, and they're pretty linear in what they want to accomplish. However, with that being said, given what cards are currently in your hand, what cards your opponent has used to stop you, or maybe hasn't used to stop you, can greatly determine what your end board looks like. As opposed to something like Duel, where basically if it resolves its combo, it basically does the same thing every time, or Tenpai, which is kind of similar, or a myriad of other combo decks where it's designed to do one thing and one thing only. This deck kind of just jumps through whatever hoops it can in order to get wherever it can, and it oftentimes is very different, but very fun nonetheless. Sometimes you don't even go through the Snake Eye line, sometimes you don't even go through your Fiendsmith stuff. There's a lot of different things that you can do, which makes it quite enjoyable to play. The other thing about this that I really do enjoy is the fact that it can play so many non-engine, right? I am playing 43, which I just found to be the best for me, but it allows me to play a ton of non-engine, right? The Maxi Infua, Droll, which I think is really good, Nibiru, which I think is really good, Imperms, Ash, etc., etc. Very nice. Even the Bestials are non-engine, basically. So all in all, very strong, very solid across the board. And the other thing is that while it may look like, oh, I'm only playing one apiece of all of these fusions, that means if I use them, they're dead. All of these basically have a way to go back into the deck, so you're never really running out of resources. You basically always have something. You can always go into another Desiree. You can always go into another Silva. You can always do something else in addition to whatever you've started with your combo. Which means, on turn 3, if your board is broken, you basically still get to play the game. Even, you know, pushing through an opponent's board and breaking it, you can kind of end on nothing. As long as you have some sort of like hand trap to stop them or what have you, you could just do it all again, which is really, really powerful and very fun. So yeah, all in all, I think this is a great deck. Probably one of the best decks currently. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope that you guys did enjoy it. If you did, like us very much, so appreciate it. And remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.